The idea about the book, How Learning Works, 7 Research-Based Principles for Smart Teaching, actually has been 10 years in the making. When I started working at the Eberly Center for Teaching Excellence at Carnegie Mellon University, we started developing those principles in 2001. And they morphed over the years. We started with 7, then it became 8, then we subtracted 1, then we subtracted another 1, then we modified 1 more, and then we were back to 7. And then it was an attempt to crystallize the work that we do with faculty and all the research-based advice that we give them, that we've already been giving them. And so at some point, we got feedback that it would be interesting to have those principles on paper, basically. And so it was a very collaborative effort by 5 people, the team at the Eberly Center at the time, a historian, a cognitive psychologist, a motivational psychologist, a developmental psychologist, myself as a statistician, and an anthropologist. And I lied, I said 5, but it was 6, and then 1 person had to drop out of the project. So we're trying to come at learning from multiple perspectives, all research-based, but with different questions asked and with different priorities in mind. We see our contribution as not creating new research, but synthesizing the existing research in these 7 principles that interact with each other to explain a lot of what's going on in the classroom when students are trying to learn or struggling to learn certain things. And they can explain what's going on. And the other aspect of the book was to give faculty everywhere a sense of the research that is behind these ideas and principles and guidelines. A lot of the work that we have seen in the past, and the reason why our field of faculty development suffers, is because there is a misconception that it's a lot of fluff. So we wanted to counter that with solid research-based advice. One of the key aspects for me when I visit different schools and talk about the book is to impress on my audience the importance of a solid, systematic, reflective practice, turning the lenses on ourselves as learners, not just as teachers. And I was very impressed actually when I was interacting with the faculty here at Elgin Community College, because I see that they get it. The thinking behind that, in my mind, is that teaching is the basis for institutions of higher learning. And yet, we approach it as in a different way that we approach research, those of us who do research. Research is a very scholarly activity. It's public, it's peer-reviewed, it's systematic, it's rigorous, it's worthy of reflection. In fact, research is not good research until it has done all of those things, until it has been peer-reviewed, etc. We don't treat teaching that way. And I think we should. There's been a movement growing to do that more. And that's one of the, that's my main message, basically, to talk about the fact that teaching should be a scholarly activity so that it builds on itself and it becomes better and better. And so part of that being a scholarly activity is the fact that teaching should be public. We should talk about our teaching. We shouldn't be afraid of opening the doors to our classroom. And part of that is because it gets to our identity, and we feel vulnerable when that happens. But when we can share our successes and when we can share our doubts, then we can find answers together. And then we need to share our results so that other people can learn from that. And that's the sort of the peer-reviewed aspect of that. And we keep thinking about things that we haven't quite figured out yet. And none of us is the silver bullet. And so we have a lot of things that we haven't figured out yet. And we reflect on them. And when we do that, the interesting thing is that we become learners ourselves. We're learning about our own teaching. And as learners, the 7 principles of learning now apply to ourselves. And so we can ask ourselves, how can we become more intentional? How can we take charge of our own learning about teaching, just like we're asking the students to take charge and take responsibility of their own learning?